let Lloyd lead us in the pledge this morning.
Fine, thank you. Would everybody stand and please place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me?
Okay, Floyd, I think you followed my directions very well and you put yourself on mute. Floyd, where are you?
Oh, it looks like we might have.
He may not have accepted the fact that it's being recorded.
Oh, maybe that's what happened to him. Okay, I'm sorry. Was that you, Sandra? That just said
Yes.
that? Okay,
Yes.
I tell you what, could you lead us in the pledge?
Yes.
Thank
Place
you.
your right- Thank you. Please stand, place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I thought maybe he was just following my directions and had muted himself.
No, I'm sorry. I lost my signal there, Becky.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Sandra picked it up for us, and thank you, Sandra Amanda.
I started doing it and all of a sudden my phone went dead, so I'm back.
Oh, okay. All right. Glad to have you back. Okay. And then with that, can we have our roll call? Cecilia? I see you muted. Okay. There you go.
Hi there. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties here. You can bear with me. Okay. I'm so sorry about that. All right, Alhambra,
I'm here.
Arcadia,
Yeah.
Azusa,
Present.
Baldwin Park, Bradbury, Claremont,
Present.
Covina, Duarte,
Finley, present.
Almani, Glendora,
Present.
Industry,
Present.
Erwindale, La Puente, Laverne,
Present.
LA County,
Bisner, present.
Monrovia,
Here.
Monterey Park,
Final hearing with a subpoena and a
Pasadena,
Present.
Pomona,
Pomona here.
Rosemead,
Present.
San Dimas,
Here.
San Gabriel,
Present.
Sierra Madre,
John Capocha, present.
South Pasadena,
Joe, present.
Temple City.
Present. Present.
Oh, Cynthia, I hope you're okay.
Just laryngitis.
Walnut,
Alan Wu present.
West Covina.
Present.
Thank you. With that, we do have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. Now, moving on then to our order of business. I was going to make a special presentation, but I do not see Mr. Morgan online. Is he online, Cecilia?
No, he is not.
I will mention that Mr. Henry Morgan will be going off the board. And they have actually appointed someone, Patty Cortez, I do believe, to take his place on the board. And she will be joining us, but Trustee Henry Morgan has served the vector control, mosquito and vector control for 30 years. And so we were going to present him with his 30-year pin. I'm assuming that maybe we can mail that to him.
Yes, we will ensure that he receives it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. With that though, do we have any other changes to our order of business?
We do not know.
Okay, thank you. Then I will move on to item 2, the opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have anyone who has requested public comment?
No public comment, no.
Okay, and seeing no raised hands, we will go ahead and close that portion of our meeting and move on to item 3, consent calendar consisting of items 3.1 to 3.8 can be taken all in one motion unless.
Finley move approval. Finley move approval.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Margaret Finley and a second by Lloyd Johnson. Was there any public comment on this item?
No public comment, no.
Okay, thank you. Then we will have our roll call vote.
Yes, Alhambra,
Yes.
Arcadia,
Yes.
Azusa,
Yes, but I'll be abstaining from item 3.4.
I'll make note of it. Thank you. Thurman,
Yes.
Doherty,
Finley, yes.
Glendora,
Yes.
Industry,
Yes.
Laverne,
Yes.
LA County,
Yes.
Monrovia,
Yes.
Pasadena,
Yes.
Pomona,
Yes.
Rosemead,
Yes.
San Dimas,
Yes.
San Gabriel,
Yes. Yes.
Sierra Madre,
Yes.
South Pasadena,
Yes.
Temple City,
Yes.
Walnut,
Yes.
and West Covina.
Yes.
Thank you. With that, the motion does pass.
Great, thank you. Then we'll move on then to item 4, Board of Trustees potential return to in-person meetings update. As many of you are no doubt aware, there was legislation that was just recently passed that addresses this issue. I can't say that it's helpful in any way to our cause. So far as I can see, then unless there's objection, I would propose that we remain virtual through the end of the year and then beginning in January, make a clean break and start meeting in person. I did want to ask Kelly if she wanted to make any comment regarding the latest legislation. I did want to, if she's able to, make clarification. I believe the emergence or the current virtual guidelines are in effect until, or can be in effect till 2023? Is that?
That is correct. It is the end, it is December 31st, 2023, taking effect on January 1st, 2024 will be the new regulations. Thank you, President Shevlin. Yes, AB 361 does remain in effect. It was slightly altered, but the emergency provisions that we have been meeting virtually under do remain in effect so long as the governor's emergency declaration with respect to the pandemic remains in effect, and it does. With that, we are still able to meet virtually. However, going forward at the end of 2023, the virtual meeting option will change to a hybrid option that is much more restrictive.
Now, if though he withdraws his emergency order, that would change things, correct?
That is correct. Without the emergency declaration for the pandemic, we are not able to meet under the provisions of AB 361 as that emergency declaration is a necessary component.
Okay, thank you. Most all of our organizations, and I know the COG we'll start meeting. No doubt we haven't made it official, but at the beginning of the year, they're in transition and going to be moving into new offices between now and the end of the year. At any rate, do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment, no.
Any comment from any of our board members? Trustees? Okay, not hearing any, so that we will then follow that recommendation, or I'm recommending that we start meeting in person in January of 2023.
And Becky,
Yes.
have we determined then that we will not do a hybrid?
Well, the rules under which we'd have to do a hybrid are exceedingly difficult. I see that Jackie Dornett said she prefers Zoom. You can only, but if that doesn't take effect until 2024, I don't know how that would work, but under the new guidelines, you can only do virtual twice a year. It has to be under an emergency situation. There has to be an in-person quorum present in order to allow it. I don't know. And in our room, I do not believe in, Jason, you can weigh in here. I do not believe our room is set up to accommodate a hybrid option.
All 12 juries would have had to.
Yeah, with the hybrid, because the room is so big, we'd have to have video and audio on everyone individually. And so not impossible, but much more complicated than it would be for a smaller board or council that is on a dais where, you know, one camera can capture them all for the in-person. So those are the challenges that we have for the hybrid, just the size of our board and getting the audio and the video coordinated for all of those different angles and individuals.
Alcohol and drugs during.
And Mr. Vienna.
Hey, I just I understand the recommendation and the purpose for a clean break, but I do agree. My preference would be to continue with the Zoom until such time that the emergency order is withdrawn.
Okay, do we have anyone else wanting to weigh in here?
I would prefer to Zoom, Becky, and
Okay.
I think it's kind of one of those things. First of all, if we're in January, it's kind of the height of the flu season.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a thought of maybe the first quarter doing something still virtually and then check and see after that?
Well, why don't we do this and without a withdrawal of the emergency order, then, well, I tell you what, this is a standing item on our agenda. So why don't I talk with our legal counsel and staff and see what we might be able to come up with, and we'll discuss this further at our next meeting. How's that?
In September from a year ago.
And see also if I can find out more about the lifting of the emergency order, if there's any, you know, any news on that. Does that sound good? I'm seeing a couple of thumbs up. Okay, we'll do that. We'll bring it back next time. This isn't the recommendation wasn't hard and fast anyways. At any rate, that was the direction I was going. Okay, then we will move on then to item 5, which is our presentation, and that's Jason Farned, our district manager, on the invasive Aedes update. Jason.
All right, thank you, President Shevlin. Can everybody see my screen? Am I good here for the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I've been talking a lot about invasive Aedes over the last few weeks, and not just with residents of the district, but to friends and family at barbecues and birthday parties. You know, it seems like everywhere I go, This is the time of year that we are all just fed up with these mosquito bites. So I thought it was a good time to provide a more detailed update on the subject to all of you as well, and kind of go through start to finish the challenges that we're dealing with this mosquito and what we're doing about it and what we hope to do about it in the future. So I'll start with a brief introduction to the invasive species and review what makes them different from our local mosquitoes. I'm going to talk about where these mosquitoes are statewide and locally. We'll look at the risk that these mosquitoes pose in terms of both disease and nuisance biting. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing through our prevention and control strategies. And finally, look at some of the novel control strategies on the horizon that are currently being developed. So let's get started here. When we talk about invasive Aedes, we're actually referring to 3 different mosquito species. Aedes albopictus, which were discovered in our district in 2011, Aedes aegypti, which were found in 2013, and Aedes nodoscriptus found in 2014. All 3 species are invasive to California. They're all very similar to each other, but they're very different from our common mosquitoes. So first of all, as a review, they bite aggressively during the day. And this is something that people in California are not used to. It's probably the biggest shock to our residents. People in California aren't used to having to worry about mosquitoes as they lay out by the pool or watch their kids' soccer games in the middle of the day. Another big difference is they seek out humans as their primary host, and they bite multiple hosts per blood meal. Now, this characteristic has huge implications, both in terms of nuisance and disease transmission. As a nuisance factor, it means that a relatively low number of mosquitoes are creating a lot of mosquito bites. So let's remember that our common mosquitoes don't actually care to bite humans specifically. They're much more likely to bite birds and other small mammals. And by contrast, invasive Aedes seek out humans, which is why you hear people saying that as soon as they walk outside, they're getting bit. Oops, sorry about that. Another big difference is that one single mosquito can be responsible for multiple mosquito bites on one person or on multiple members of the same family. And so this also means that these mosquitoes are very efficient at transmitting disease because they can quickly spread the virus from one person to another to another. Invasive Aedes are container breeders. They have evolved to live in close contact with humans, even indoors, and they prefer urban environments. So they lay their eggs and grow in small containers of water found around the yard and inside the home. So bird baths, tires, children's toys, and even bottle caps. As you can see, the female mosquitoes find these small containers of water and they lay their eggs around the insides of these containers. The good news on this chart is that these mosquitoes have a very short flight range of only about a quarter mile. So that's good news for residents because that means that residents' habit change and changes in their landscaping can have a really big impact in their population and the nuisance. So California is not an ideal climate for these guys. In fact, it was thought for a long time that these tropical mosquitoes could not survive in the state. And yet over the last decade, invasive Aedes have spread up and down California. And this is primarily due to microclimates created by individual properties with lush and overgrown vegetation. The silver lining here is, like I said before, the landscaping has a lot to do with where these guys hang out. And so altering the landscaping can make a big difference. Here on this map, you see all of the counties in Southern California up through the Central Valley and as far north as Shasta County that have detected Aedes aegypti, and a few counties, including LA County, have both aegypti and albopictus. Here locally, you can see that we have either aegypti or albopictus in every city within the district. And in many cities, we have both. So on this map, the green indicates aegypti and the blue albopictus. And even though Aedes albopictus showed up a few years earlier and had a big head start, we see that aegypti are outpacing and even replacing them in some areas. And these two species don't usually cohabitate very well together. And so we expect to see one eventually push the other out. And while this may be interesting from an ecological standpoint, it really makes no difference to our residents. Both of these species are equally making it more difficult to spend time outdoors. Thankfully, however, there is no immediate disease threat to date. There has never been a local transmission of Aedes-borne disease in California, but the potential is there. And so it's not a matter of if, but when. Local disease transmission relies on two factors, the vector and the pathogen. And as we know, different mosquitoes transmit different diseases. And in this case, we have Aedes. But thankfully, there are no diseases endemic in our environment that they can transmit. So in order to see local transmission, we also need the pathogen. And that will come in the form of a travel, what we call a travel case or an imported travel case, meaning that someone will travel to or from some place where they will contract an Aedes-borne disease, and they will bring that disease here where they could get bit by one of our local mosquitoes and introduce that pathogen to our local population. Some of the potential diseases that we're looking out for are Zika, yellow fever, dengue, and chikungunya. We work closely with the LA County Department of Public Health, who provide us with location data for travel-related cases. And so far this year, we have responded to 6 travel-related dengue cases. And the county also investigates the origin of these cases to rule out local transmission. So we haven't had any local transmission yet, and I'll discuss the district's response to those local cases in just a bit. So Aedes do not pose an immediate disease threat, but they are a tremendous nuisance. And I think by now all of us have experienced either personally or through family and friends, the barrage of mosquito bites on our legs and ankles and feet. So here's the abundance chart that represents the total number of Aedes caught in a particular trap location year to date. So these bubbles on this map represent cumulative totals for the entire year. And there are a couple things I want to take away from this chart. One is that that our trap counts are relatively very low. If you look at the smaller bubbles here, we're looking at a cumulative total of 31 up to the maximum of 198. So for most of the summer, we're seeing average trap counts of 2 to 3 Aedes per trap. And we just peaked this last month at an average of 8 per trap. So this chart helps us direct resources where they're needed the most. Now, I know some of you are probably saying, wait, low trap counts? That doesn't make any sense. I have mosquito bites all over my body that say otherwise. But remember, one mosquito can bite you multiple times or multiple people at a time. And so it's not that there are a lot of Aedes mosquitoes out there, especially relative to more tropical places like Hawaii or Florida, but it's that these mosquitoes are just extremely aggressive. And that's the second point I want to make with this chart here. A small but persistent population of Aedes exists throughout our entire district. And that creates, what's become common as a baseline nuisance factor. And that's something that we're all going to have to get used to for the moment. And that's what most of us are experiencing, this baseline nuisance. It's a persistent nuisance a few months out of the year, and it really does improve greatly with repellent use and consistent property management. Where we want to focus our resources is anything that's peaked above that nuisance. And because our chemical and physical control of these mosquitoes by the district is so labor intensive and expensive, and we really can't be everywhere at once, we need to be very deliberate about where we deploy our resources. And this is one of the data points that we use to help us do that. Another one is service request location data. So this map shows all of the service requests that have to do with nuisance biting. So far this year, we've responded to 493. Specifically with property inspections, consultations, and neighborhood educations. I described our consultation program in detail a couple of months ago. But what we can also look at here when we're looking at this location data is we're able to identify clusters where we can employ enhanced neighborhood support. I've also described that in a previous presentation, so I won't get into it. But what we call ENS is a door-to-door effort that combines detailed property and environmental inspection with public education and source reduction. And so far this year, ENS teams have provided enhanced support to over 40 neighborhoods, going door-to-door to over 3,000 properties. And so this is also how we respond to potential human cases of Aedes-borne disease. We really get into those neighborhoods, try to reduce the mosquito population and educate the public as much as possible to prevent mosquito bites. So I'm running out of time here, so I can't describe all of our current control programs, in great detail, but most of our efforts are communicated in our monthly department reports. And so if anybody ever has any questions about those reports, feel free to give me a call, or you can bring it up at the meetings. But I do want to mention our district's IBM strategy before I move on. This IBM strategy is really shifting. As you all know, we adhere to a strict data-driven IBM strategy, and that includes public education, surveillance, and control. And what's changing here is that this work was traditionally, or has traditionally been siloed within 3 different departments here at the district. In an effort to become more efficient, we're trying to tear down those silos, and we're asking departmental programs to consider all 3 of these objectives. And so as a result, we're developing and fine-tuning programs like the consultation program, ENS, our citizen science programs, even our social media presence is starting to accomplish all 3 of these objectives at the same time. And that's really making a big impact and spreading our resources a lot further when it comes to invasive Aedes. And lastly, there's some really cool stuff on the horizon that really might change the Aedes game. And that is called sterile insect technology, or SIT. And I want to spend the last minute or so here looking at where we are with this technology, because we get a lot of questions about it. So sterile insect technology is a method of reducing the mosquito population by eliminating their ability to reproduce. And this method has been proven in California. It's actually how California has gotten control and continues to control the Mediterranean fruit fly. So there are 3 ways that this can work. All of them are currently being developed pretty seriously. We can sterilize mosquitoes through bacteria, through genetic modification, and through radiation. So first, let's look at bacterial sterilization. In this method, male mosquitoes in a lab are infected with a naturally occurring bacteria called Wolbachia. And Wolbachia-infected males mate with wild females. The eggs don't hatch. And so this started with research out of the University of Kentucky and has been adopted by a Google company called Verily. And they have done extensive trials with very good success up north. They literally drive through neighborhoods in these vans that you see here on the slide, releasing millions of sterile male mosquitoes, essentially crashing the wild population. And so there are 2 challenges, though, that they found with these trials. The first one is that as soon as they stopped the trial, the population almost immediately rebounded. And so it became clear that with any of this technology, it's going to have to be a sustaining effort. And second, they're trying to figure out how to economically lab rear enough Wolbachia-infected male mosquitoes to scale this method to serve more than just a few communities. And Verily is very optimistic about this. I'm cautiously optimistic because right now they're not talking cost at all, even hypothetically. So I have a feeling that this is going to be very expensive. Next, we have genetic modification, and this is very similar, just the method is different. In this scenario, male Aedes mosquitoes are engineered with a self-limiting gene that is passed on to their offspring and prevent them from surviving into adulthood. And so this technology is currently being used with great success in other countries. And the company that produces these mosquitoes, Oxitec, they have called their mosquito friendly males, and it's a trademark friendly male mosquitoes. They're currently working on approval to begin trials up in northern or central California, up in Tulare County. And so they're pretty confident that they're going to get all their approvals very soon. And so they're hoping to start those trials by next season. Unfortunately, the challenges of scale and maybe even cost will still be the same or similar with this technology. The last technique here is radiation. And here, lab-reared mosquitoes are sterilized using X-rays or gamma radiation. And just like the other 2, these males are released to mate with wild females, and the eggs will not hatch. And this is the method that's being used with the fruit flies. For us, in the short term, this is looking like the best option. We could grow mosquitoes here in the lab. We stick them into this big microwave, and then we let them go. And of course, that is a major oversimplification of this process, but it is something that we could conceivably do on our own or in partnership with other local vector control districts. So we're eagerly tracking all 3 of these techniques, but we are seriously looking into this last one. And we have been talking about these measures with our residents at outreach events, and we have observed a lot of support for this from our residents. As you can imagine, there are strong feelings about genetic modification and deliberately releasing millions of mosquitoes back into the environment. But as we educate the public about our options, we're finding a lot of support for this strategy. In fact, we've recently received several letters from neighborhood groups in Pasadena asking us to actively pursue this type of control. So I will keep you all posted as things progress. And in the meantime, I know that it can be bad out there. September and October are the worst. But as overnight temperatures drop in the next few weeks, we will see some relief. And if you haven't already, I strongly recommend you all get a bottle of mosquito repellent, have it by your back door, ready to go as you go outside, especially latter September, early October, when these populations are really peaking. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Do we have any questions this morning? Okay. Mr. Capocha.
Yes, Jason, all three options, the big challenge is the distribution of the mosquitoes, and that's the highest cost component of that, right?
Yeah, that and manufacturing these mosquitoes. So in the Wolbachia and the Oxitec, the genetic modification, that takes specialized labs to do that. Only certain people can do that. That's only Oxitec or Verily would be able to do that. And that would have to be huge facilities, computers making millions of mosquitoes. So that's one part of it, is where do we build these facilities? How close to the different regions do we build them? How do we transport those mosquitoes out? So the first problem would be getting those mosquitoes here to San Gabriel Valley. And then to your point, it would be how do we distribute those mosquitoes to all the different neighborhoods. So we would need specialized vans or trucks or some kind of deployment method to be able to do that.
So you're basically, you can drive down the cost a little bit in the production part of the mosquitoes, but you're still left with that challenge of distribution. And there's only so many different ways you could possibly do that, right? I mean, so it's going to be expensive no matter what. I mean, you've probably got a curve, where your costs just kind of level out and you can't really achieve too much more.
Yeah, that's right. And like I mentioned, it has to be a sustained effort. So just like with the fruit flies, we're going to have to continue to release these things inevitably. So really it will come down. I want to introduce these ideas as often as possible and keep you guys updated, because it's going to come down to a decision of the board about how much resources we're willing to dedicate to this, especially if invasive Aedes aren't spreading disease, if they're just a nuisance factor. Now, I know residents are all for it. They're ready to spend as much as it takes. But, the board would have to determine, cost-wise, how much we scale up, where we're comfortable and how much of a priority we want to make this.
Yeah, so maybe the next time we talk about this, maybe you could provide a cost estimate so we have an idea so that we can talk to people about what they're, because we're talking about, as we discussed before, this isn't so much about disease control anymore. It's nuisance elimination. And my feeling is that people would be willing to pay a certain amount for that, but we really don't know how much. So maybe it's a good time to start those discussions if we had kind of an estimate of what it would take to implement a sustained program like that.
Yeah, and Verily and or Oxitec, they don't have costs. That's the first question that we have, but I can definitely put together some cost models that have to do with the radiation technique, because again, that's something that we would do solely in-house or in collaboration with other districts. So it wouldn't be next month by any means, but over the next few months, as we start to explore these possibilities, I can get you some information.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I know Jared had brought that to us. This has been several years now, and it doesn't seem like the needle has moved much, especially in the cost thing, because they've never had the cost figures available. But I wanted to go to Margaret. You had a question?
Yeah, question, comment, whatever. Very, very interesting. Really like that. Thank you, Jason, for that. Could we get a copy of that, of the presentation? Only because when I go ahead and report out at our city council meeting, I can use some of those notes. That would save Levy making another trip out to our city council meeting.
I was thinking the same thing, Margaret.
You know, something that's been very interesting. I'm walking for my reelection right now, and I was over near some people, and they were talking about, wow, how come the mosquitoes are so bad this year? And I looked around in their yard, and what you're saying is absolutely true. I mean, big lush plants. It was a lovely yard, but I am just sure they're breeding a lot of mosquitoes in that yard. So I think these are all really good points to maintain. And I really would like to be able to explain this as best as possible, but you did an excellent job on that, Jason. So if we could get copies of that, I think it would be beneficial for us explaining it to our city council.
Yeah, thank you very much. And absolutely, I'll send out the presentation with notes. So you can either use the slides or you can just use the talking points.
Okay,
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And there was a question in the chat about, did it disappear? Oh, we were told last year that we were going to purchase a radiation unit. I know that that had been under consideration at one time, and especially setting up a processing plant, for a lack of a better description, over in our that annex building there, right as you enter the parking lot. But again, that had to do with cost. And I know we talked about the possibility of maybe partnering with other districts. Did you want to comment on that, Jason?
Sure. Everything that, all the plans that Jared had put into place, and anything that he has communicated before is still on the table. We're still working toward that. It just is a big commitment, and some of the other districts are working on their lab rearing. And so we are right. We have our rearing lab here, and we can do that. I'm hoping to learn from them. And hope it won't put us too far behind. It'll save us some costs from that trial and error and development. I can just cut and paste things that are successful at other districts, and it won't put us far behind either. So whether we partner with other districts and share costs, or we emulate what's working, we will have a plan if the things that the other districts are doing, if the technology is proven to work.
Okay, so then, as John had requested, if we could have a report come back to us as to where we stand, costs and possibilities.
Yep.
Do we have any other questions? Not seeing any raised hands. Did we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Thank you very much. And then I will move then to item 6, trustee terms of office ending December 31st, 2022. Can you move to that page in the report, Cecilia?
Yeah. Yes, of course. Give me 1 second.
So everybody can see it up on the screen. Okay, there you go. These are the trustees whose terms are expiring, and if they are to continue on after January 13th, 2023, then they need reauthorization from their city councils. And we've got Stephen Sham, Alhambra, Robert Gonzalez Azusa, Manuel Garcia Irwindale, Elise Rasmussen Laverne, myself from Monrovia, Tim Sandoval Pomona, Denise Menchaca San Gabriel, Cynthia Sternquist Temple City, and Alan Wu in Walnut. So if you are no longer going to, or you need to get reauthorization, I guess I should just leave it at that. Any questions on that? Not seeing any raised hands. Did we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, then we will move on. And Cecilia, will we be reaching out to the cities to let let them know individually that they have a trustee that has an expired term?
Yes, exactly. I'll be reaching out, sending correspondence with a reminder of that. Yeah.
Okay, great, great. When do you think that'll go out?
Next week. Yeah, beginning of
Okay.
next week.
Okay, great. Moving on then to item 7, trustee conference opportunity, call for statements of interest forms 2023 annual MVCAC conference. And this process might seem a little foreign. We haven't in the past maybe done this, but I'll let Jason explain.
Sure. So in accordance with our personnel and salary resolution, the procedure to select trustees to attend a conference require that a statement of interest form be submitted to the board president for consideration and approval. So submitted forms will be forwarded to the board president for approval based on a first come, first served basis. The current budget allocation allows for 2 trustees to attend our upcoming MVCAC annual conference. So it's recommended that trustees interested in attending complete and submit a statement of interest form to Cecilia, and forms for this conference will be accepted immediately following this meeting, no later than 4:30 p.m. on November 30th. So as soon as we conclude here today, fill out the form and send it in if you're interested. Now, President Shevlin has asked me how technical these conferences are and if there's value in the board members attending. I think that might have been code for, am I going to be bored stiff at this thing or what? And I would say that there is absolutely value, and I would encourage everyone to try and go at least once just to really get a better understanding of what we do. There are a lot of board members who attend these meetings, and there is even a board member committee or council. And a lot of times there's talks and workshops specifically for you. I think Orange County is hosting a special trustee workshop this year. And while there are some very technical talks, there are usually multiple symposium happening at the same time that cover topics from communication, administration, local government, operations. So you're bound to find something interesting. But more importantly, it's a good way to see how our district compares to the rest of the state or the country at the American Mosquito Association in terms of challenges and priorities and tactics. So it really helps put our work here in a greater context.
Great, thank you very much. And the other item is that the executive board does have the right of first refusal, so to speak. And so if any on the executive board are wanting specifically, please let me know. Okay, any questions on this item? Okay, I think did I ask if there's any public comment?
I don't think so, but there was no public comment.
Okay, great, thank you. So then we will then move on to our next item, which is consider vote on ballot for special district LAFCO voting member. And this is for a specific type of representative, and we found out, for those that remember, that I believe it was Trustee Marcucci, is that correct, that had expressed interest? And because she sits on her city, it was because she's a city council member, correct?
Yes.
Right. It disqualified her, and it can be confusing because we all know that Margaret Finley serves on LAFCO, and she's very definitely a member of a city council. But the position here is for a special district LAFCO voting member. But Jason, you want to explain just a bit on that for me?
Sure. So the bios of the candidates and the ballot is attached. And so of the 4 candidates, if the board would like to make a vote for one of the candidates, then Cecilia and the district will submit that ballot.
And we have no recommendations. I personally don't know any of these candidates or have any background other than what's in their bios. I asked Jason as well. He does not have any recommendations either. Yes, Margaret?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we rarely ever have an opportunity to have someone from a vector control district. And I did talk with Paul about it, and Paul was fine. He didn't know all the people, but I think again, I represent cities. That's how I am put on the LAFCO board. So I think if we can have someone from the vector control district, I think that would be a good choice.
Great. Does anyone have an opposing viewpoint on that?
Yeah, and so that would be Stephen Appleton is on the
Yes.
board of trustees for the Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control District.
Okay. Now this, now do we just give, so we would have a motion then to accept an individual on this. Did we have any public comment on it?
Yes, that's correct. No public comment.
Okay. And John, you've got a question?
I just wanted to make that motion to nominate Stephen Appleton as
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second motion by John Capocha, second by Corey Saleke. And then if there's no further discussion, any other, we will go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Yes.
And that is to recommend Stephen Appleton.
Okay, Alhambra,
Yes.
Arcadia,
Yes.
Azusa,
Yes.
Claremont,
Yes.
Duarte,
Yes.
Glendora,
Yes.
Industry,
Yes.
Laverne,
Yes.
LA County,
Yes. Yeah.
Monrovia,
Yes.
Pasadena,
Yes.
Pomona,
Yes.
Rosemead,
Yes.
San Dimas,
Yes.
San Gabriel,
Yes.
Sierra Madre,
yes.
South Pasadena,
Yes.
Temple City,
Yes.
Walnut,
Yes.
West Covina.
Yes.
And actually, I'm going to circle back. I want to verify if Trustee Barakat is here. I believe I saw he arrived a bit late.
Yes, I'm here and I vote yes.
Thank you. And
And
then
Melmani?
also,
Go ahead.
yes, also Trustee Velasco, I believe you're in attendance here.
For Melmani?
Yes.
Was that? Yes, I vote yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, with that, the motion does pass.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, then we are moving on then to item 9, our district administration reports. And do we have any public comment under this section?
No public comment.
Okay, then we will move on. Jason, if you could provide us with our COVID update.
Sure. So in the last month, the district has experienced minimal absence due to illness, but there has been no direct transmission within the office, and there has been no interruption to service. And so this will probably be my last routine COVID update unless something notable occurs. We've seen a pretty consistent results in terms of, or consequences in terms of COVID here at the district. Next, I will provide a surveillance update. So our trap counts continue to be on the low side of our 5-year average throughout the district. We do continue to detect West Nile virus in mosquitoes, but the incidence of positive pools are reducing every week as we move into the fall. LA County Public Health has reported 27 human infections within the county, including 5 cases within San Gabriel Valley. And the Pasadena Health Department has reported 1 human infection. Reports of human infection are followed up with enhanced surveillance, outreach, and control measures. Invasive Aedes trap counts are on the rise as they historically peak late September, October, as I mentioned earlier. And the district has received an increase this year in travel-related dengue infections as reported by the county. So we've received a total of 6 case reports this year so far. And as I mentioned in the presentation, we track these cases very carefully to try and prevent the virus from spreading to our local Aedes population. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions of Jason? Okay, not seeing any raised hands. Item 10, committee reports. We do not have, to my knowledge, any committee reports, correct?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay, does any trustee have anything that they would like to announce or report out? Yes, Sandra.
Not so much a report or more of an announcement. I've noticed that there's been a lot of difficulties with the Zoom app. And so what I did is I actually installed it and reinstalled it, and even the icon is different. So if you're having some difficulties with connectivity or feedback, you may want to look into uninstalling your app and reinstalling it, because I have not had any problems once I've reinstalled it. And even the icon is different. It's a Zoom inside a blue circle. So just a food for thought.
Great, thank you very much. Any other announcements, comments? Okay, not seeing any. Do we have any new business? Not seeing any raised hands, then not seeing any other business before us. It seems like it was forever that we had met. It's been 5 weeks. It's really great to see you all online, and we will continue to look at the question of whether or not we come back in person, how we can navigate that. And I just want to wish you all have a happy Halloween and happy fall as we enter into hopefully some cooler weather and fewer mosquitoes. And with that, I will say at 7:52, I will adjourn this meeting.